Hello, my name is Nathan McIntyre, and this is my mechanics video for Des 4 and my earthquake level. I've got the earthquake playing a little quicker than in the gameplay video. That way you can see how all the pieces move independently. I thought it looked really neat. Every single piece in here can move. The only thing I have disabled is the grass, because it drops frame rate with the fire in the level pretty hard. But to show that, what I did was I made the ground. It's the original blueprint, and then I just duplicated it for the grass house, roads, shelter, and towers. The only difference in any of these is that in the tower, so it loops around. I've got this. Was gonna do something neat with that, but I'm gonna save that for another class. Like on the ground, it's 1 to 3, and then it goes through and it picks the timeline. I've got 3 separate timelines set up for the earthquake. These two kind of peak the same. They're a little different, that way it kind of looks unique. And this one's set up opposite to kind of make it look like a wave sometimes, to make it look a little more realistic. And the values are low, that way it's not like something super crazy, and that just wraps around. But the tower is hard coded, that way they will not clip into each other, because if you let them run random, they will clip all the way through each other, and it looks awful. The fire is set up similar to the earthquake, where these are just moving back and forth, which I'll show. That's literally all they do until they are hit with a fire extinguisher, which I'll show. The fire extinguisher, when you pick it up, it destroys the actor, and then it just makes it visible. It's already equipped to the character's hand socket. It's just its visibility is all it does. When you left mouse click, it starts deleting stuff. But what's actually happening, it's not shooting. Hold on, here's the code for just picking it up. It destroys that actor that was floating in that room. It uses an interact interface, which I'll explain that here in a second. But the collision is just a box. In this way, it's a little easier to control. You can hit more than one fire with it at once. In the event graph, when the box hits the fire and it overlaps, it calls the game state to track how many fires, and then it destroys the fire and then the box after a delay, so it doesn't glitch out. The game state is tracking survivors and how many fires you put out. But as far as this sphere here, the survivor also has a sphere, and what I'm doing with the interface on the third person character is I'm just checking any actor I overlap with and running a for each loop with a break. That way it stops when it finds one that is using the interface, and when it is, it'll let me, like if I press E, if it's using the interface, it'll do things with sending the message, depending on if it's picking up the fire extinguisher or telling the survivor what to do. But after that, it like on E, this is where it equips the fire extinguisher, just sets visibility on the cylinder and the cone, and then it shows the text render for the press the left mouse click button for 5 seconds, but I've only got it do once, and the reason I have to use the do once is because if not, every time I'm overlapping an actor, whether it's just that one fire extinguisher or the survivors, it would show that all the time. So I have to do that once. The left mouse button click, it'll check to see if it's been collected. It won't let you shoot it until it's been collected. And then if it's fired, it has a delay. So I don't have a billion particles everywhere for firing it every 10th of a second. This spawns the particle system that makes it look like you're shooting the fire extinguisher, but in reality you're just using the collision box. And this spawns it a little out in front of you, and handles the targeting also, which this is getting the player's rotation, and all it's getting is the yaw, because that's all we care about. And then it's setting it up and adjusting it whenever you fire, so it's always in front of you. And that is all adjusted with the third person character. I showed the game state. The game state's also spawning the widget at the end when you walk through another box collision to show how many survivors you've rescued or fires you put out. And the survivor has similar things, like the extinguisher that's hidden. This is the text bubble that says help, a cylinder right there. And then it has this that says press E to rescue. I'll show you that. When you get close to the press E to rescue shows up, it goes away if you back out. Once you press E to rescue him, even if you go back inside of the bubble, it's set up to where it won't respawn any more messages. He's just constantly trying to run to the shelter over there. This is the help bubble. It just sets it visibility because it's already here, and it is random, the time on it. This is the go-to shelter, and what I had to do here is it's set on a loop, because if he runs into the fire before you spray the fire, he will stop and then not try to find pathing again and continue going to the shelter. So it has to be set up on a loop. And the other problem, I had to set these as an area instead of a single point, because if all the survivors are trying to get to that single point, they will be jumping on top of each other and clipping through the roof, and it just looks really ugly. And this way it looks more realistic as like a crowd standing in the area of the shelter instead of piling on each other. But after you've told it to interact, it will count as a survivor's rescued if they're at the location they need to be to stop moving to location. So that's how it counts. It's a win if they've made it in this area. Well, within like 200 is the tolerance for that. And this is the interact text on approach. If you enter, it makes it visible. If you leave, it makes it invisible again. And that's the entire gist of all of it. It is a work in progress. I do have the grass disconnected because it tanks the frame rate if every single piece of the whole level is moving along with the fire. But yeah, thank you.